Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs Podcast, and it's the emergency podcast we've all been waiting for. Finally, it appears the Cubs have a free agent to sign. Yes, it appears Shota Imanaga will be signing with the Cubs this week. He's supposed to have his physical, according to Bob Nightingale, coming up tomorrow, right? This is all we asked for earlier today. Please sign somebody, make something happen before Cubs convention so it doesn't get ugly. Luke Stuckmeyer, Cody, Delmendo, Ryan Herrera with the Emergency Podcast. Hello to everybody in the live YouTube chat. We appreciate it. And make sure you subscribe to the CHGO Sports YouTube page so you don't miss any of these. We spent a lot of time talking about him earlier today on the regular daily podcast, right? Like, he was a significant portion of the podcast, and it looks like they finally got a pitcher.
Yeah, did you really think they were going to go the whole offseason and not do anything? I'm sure it felt like that for a little bit, right? Like, you could breathe a sigh of relief now. It's not signing Shohei Ohtani, it's not signing Yamamoto, but it's a signing that showed that waiting, right? Showing that waiting, being patient with the offseason, for someone who, we later learned like Ohtani was never truly an option for the Cubs, even though they were in it and negotiating. It never apparently was truly an option for Ohtani. Like, the Dodgers were kind of always the team. But then, waiting, being patient, and letting the front office go to work and try to nail down and bring in someone that they really wanted, and that they were going to, it was obviously going to have to be later in the offseason, right? He's got a specific posting window. They couldn't start negotiating it with him as soon as the season ended. So someone they wanted, someone they targeted, and someone that, patience, patience pays off, right? There you go. Patience is a virtue. Patience pays off. They got something done. It's for, like we've said, like all we've said it for a while, like the fact that Cubs had done nothing, seeing the frustration on social media or in our chat or whatever, completely understandable. But now they finally did something, and I think fans can breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief now that they actually went out and signed someone that wasn't, a bargain bin option, right? It was someone that had a lot of suitors, a lot of teams wanted. The Cubs went out and got him. It was a little surprising. Like I said earlier, I literally said that earlier today. I don't know if he'll sign specifically until Thursday, but here we go. We're Tuesday night, and the Cubs have finally gotten someone.
Yeah, I mean, I guess right now it's good to see something happen. B, I'm intrigued to see how much it's for, and C, it goes back to everything I said at the beginning of the offseason and to this point was you just had to remain patient. It was very hard to remain patient, but I think it's very clear now that the Marcus Stroman era with the Chicago Cubs is officially over, officially. And listen, like this isn't a top end starter or anything like that, but they needed a guy, and they went and got him. And we kind of went back and forth today about, would you rather have him, Snell, or Montgomery? And, we kind of went through the pros and cons of all three, and I'm okay with this. I would have been okay with Imanaga or Jordan Montgomery. So obviously he's never pitched in the major leagues, so we've got to go through the whole process like we did with Seiya Suzuki. Hopefully it's a little bit of an easier transition for him. I think every guy's different, but as it stands right now, as we're doing this podcast, like, it's just nice to see the Cubs add someone to this roster that has had success in the second best league in the world. And, hopefully he can bring some success to the Cubs next season and provide an innings eater, a guy who can, help young guys as well, bring experience pitching in big games. He was in the World Baseball Classic last year. Like, I think there's a lot to like with this guy. I understand people still like holding back on any kind of excitement because, again, he's probably going to be your number 3, number 4 starter, but you need guys like this. And again, you're basically replacing Marcus Stroman here, younger, and who knows? Maybe he's better. I don't know, but we'll see.
Yeah, I don't want people to get expectations like crazy high. Like, again, we've heard everything from he could be a 3 to he could be a number 5 of Otani, Yamamoto, Imanaga. He was the one that was always linked to the Cubs as, no, the Cubs are really serious about this guy, right? Like, so he was the one that was linked the longest probably to the Cubs. Even going back before we were in Nashville, a lot of people were saying, watch for Imanaga, watch for Imanaga. Okay. Now he's not, somebody in the chat was, I think they were joking. They said John Lester. Let's not confuse him for John Lester, right?
Right.
If you just take what he's doing over in Japan, he's not Kodai Senga, but you hope he's depth in this rotation. Again, if you're losing Stroman, you have to replace him with somebody. I don't even know if this is apples to apples replacing Stroman, because we don't know what they're going to do the rest of the time. But all we know is they didn't have enough starting pitching last year, even though when we went into the season, a lot of people, including myself, thought they did. I thought they had enough pitching last year, and they didn't. So, okay, here's a guy, a lefty. We hope it's not like breaking the bank, because it doesn't seem like he's that type of player. But hey, I'm just glad it's somebody. I was accused this afternoon of not wanting Imanaga, and all I said is, no, I just want somebody. Like, I want somebody breathing on the field is what I'd like to see. We need some action. We're doing podcasts 5 days a week, sometimes more with Emergency Podcast.
For content, we need someone to sign.
We need content, man. Nate Jacobs, $5. It's alive. Now bring Bellinger back. Yes.
Hell yeah, brother.
I do think we have to make note of, from what we've seen, the deal is not obviously official. No. They have to do the physical tomorrow, which, as we saw with the Carlos Correa saga last offseason, is a major hurdle that does need to be completed. We haven't seen any contract numbers yet, so it doesn't feel like that's completely a formality at this point. So I think we still got to get through Wednesday get through Wednesday or was it just Wednesday, right? Is when
tomorrow
the physical is. Yeah, so get through Wednesday and
introduce him at Cubs convention.
Yeah, right. So it's not a done deal. I don't think the obviously the dotted line hasn't been signed. They still got a couple more things to go through before they can get that done and bring Imanaga to Cubs Con if they so choose. So I do think, like, don't assume it's a done deal, because we have seen things like this happen with pretty big free agents. But again, I will go back and say that getting the news, seeing that they're what was it? I think Bob Nightingale's wording was like tentative agreement or something like that, right? Based on the physical. So that's good news, though, and the fact that they were able to come to terms enough that they are at the stage where they're taking the physical. I think that's obviously good news.
You know what's funny is, for all the times I see Cubs Twitter freaking out over Bob Nightingale tweets me like, "We don't trust you, Bob. You're making stuff up. You're just creating stories." When it works in your favor, everybody's like, "Hey, Nightingale said it's a done deal." Right? Like, all of a sudden it's absolute fact.
That's the real, like, if you had to describe, don't let the facts get in the way of a good story without actually saying that line itself. Right. What you just said, Luke, is that.
if his tweet had been, the Red Sox have reached a tentative agreement with Shota Imanaga, Cubs Twitter would have been like, well, that means he's signing with the Cubs tomorrow.
Right. Yeah. Exactly, he would have been like, wait for passing. Yeah. In fairness, John Heyman also tweeted it out too. So
I think our friend of the program, John Morosi, confirmed it. Our friend of the program too. So
yeah. And Patrick Mooney just put out an article for The Athletic, basically saying, like, there's a strong sense of optimism that the Cubs will sign Shota Imanaga, league sources said Tuesday night, though there is no formal agreement, like you said earlier, Ryan. So, like you said, we'll wait and see. Don't know enough about the guy to see if there's like some crazy ass injury that would or thing related to his body that we don't know about that might, in this, but we'll get there when we get there, but would be wild if we had that back-to-back off seasons.
Jim with a good comment here in the live YouTube chat, which is the best way to enjoy the CHGO sports experience. Jim says, hey, have we fully replaced Stroman? It's a good question. I don't know. I mean, Marcus Stroman is a pretty accomplished pitcher in Major League Baseball. And for half of a season or a portion of a season, he looked like a guy who could have been in the Cy Young. And for the other half, he looked like a guy who was washed and injured and not going to be the same guy anymore. So to think that he's just going to automatically replace what Stroman was, I mean, you have to take the good and the bad with Stroman's season last year. I don't know that you replace him with one signing. I still think they need yet another pitcher for some depth. And obviously they're counting on guys like Cody was talking about this afternoon. They're counting on Cade Horton, the top pitching prospect in baseball, to have an impact on this team sooner or later at some point this season, right? So we'll see if they're done. I would assume, yes, they are out on Montgomery. I would assume they're not going for two of those guys.
No.
So
it would appear that way. No, I think when we're looking at it, right, like that's what we were talking about earlier. You had Montgomery was an option, Imanaga was an option, Blake Snell. They weren't really ever tied to Blake Snell, but he was another guy right at the top of that pitching tier. So those were like, I think you could probably say the depending on how you look at things, probably the top three names out there. So especially if they're interested in Bellinger still, right? Like, so some of these other guys that might cost a little bit of money, maybe the top of the pitching market may not, starting pitching market at least, may not be in the cards anymore, but they got one of the top guys that was still there. So I don't know that I see them getting anyone like Montgomery, right? Like, I mean, crazier things have happened, but I think my gut would say that Jordan Montgomery won't be a Cub after the getting Imanaga.
Brendan has already started tweeting videos of Imanaga.
Oh, just jump in, Brendan. We know you want to show us a heat map. Let's go, pitch doctor.
This is a different. This looks like MLB The Show looking video, which is pretty crazy. But anyway, yeah, he's the pitch doctor he's in the lab right now, man. That's why he's not doing the emergency podcast.
Come on out of the lab. What are we guessing? Do you want to put it at like what should the over under be for total money, Cody? Are you saying is it over under 100? Is that the number we should have? 100 million?
No, I'd put it at 90.
Over under 90, and you would take the over? You think it's going to be over 90?
I think it'll be under.
Really?
Yeah. I think it'll be under, and it's all because just these back and forth like rumors the last couple of days. I think it all had a lot to do with money, and who knows the reason why it looks like he's choosing the Cubs. Maybe we'll learn more about in the coming days, but I think that rumor that came out of him seeking $100 million was just some sort of, I don't know, tactic or something. But I'm thinking that they didn't get as many suitors as they were hoping to perhaps get over that $100 million threshold. But I could be wrong. I mean, we'll see. But I'm hoping that it's 90 or less. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not my money. I don't care. But
friend of the program, John Morosi, just tweeted out sources: Shota Imanaga's deal with the Cubs, once finalized, will be for multiple years with an AAV in the $15 million range. So whether that's like 6 for 90, 5 for what was that? Yeah, so something like that. But
75, 5 for 75. I don't know. I went to Valpo. I don't do the math.
I went to Eastern Illinois. I don't do math either.
So if that that's the report now. We haven't seen the specifics yet, but and we haven't even seen how many years, right? As we talked about with the front office, isn't keen on giving long, or doesn't necessarily want to give long-term deals. When we're talking about a 30-year-old pitcher, it also feels like it would take him out. But I guess once you start getting more numbers in here, I think we can really start to kind of critique the deal years-wise, numbers-wise. But if it's about 15 million, you talk about 6 years or so, maybe right around 90. So I don't think it's not breaking the bank by any means. And you're adding, a guy who you hope is at least your number 3 is what we've seen, with maybe potential to be a little more than that.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about, and we've talked about it this offseason, the price of pitching just goes up every year, right? So this may have seemed a little crazy for a number 3 a few years back, but now the more pitching that comes, the more teams are paying for pitching. Again, depending on what the number is and the number of years, it could look like a pretty solid value deal for them.
Yeah, I see we got another super chat. Grapefruit says shoulder surgery and 20 minor hammy stuff after P. Will supporter. Happy about this. Alex, impressed with my math. I don't even know if I was right. Just guessing. That's how
he doesn't let the facts get in the way of a good story.
Facts get in the way. 5 times 15 sounds like it could be 75. I don't know.
Yeah,
something like that.
Could be close.
I mean, what Senga got 5 years, 75? Is that what he got last year? 5 years, 85, something like that.
I think Senga was 585.
Right. So like
we got slightly more per year if that's a 5-year deal for.
So like theoretically, or maybe not even that, but just saying out loud, like from all of the baseball nerds I've watched talk about this guy, they've all said that this guy isn't even at the level of Cody Senga. So like I personally, I hope it's less than that, but again, it's not my money. I don't care. They had that you. Like Ryan said, you got to pay for pitching, and sure, maybe we could go back and criticize the Cubs for maybe not, spinning for Senga, even though it was widely talked about how Senga wanted to go to a contender when he came over, and turns out the Cubs ended up being better than the Mets anyway. But to me, $15 million AAV for this kind of pitcher is fine. And I don't think it's going to be more than 5 years. So that's that. I mean, that's just my, if you ask me to guess, get the crystal ball out, pretend that this is DraftKings Sportsbook or Circa Sportsbook or something. Like, that's what I would say. I would say it's anywhere between 4 and 5 years, 85 to $80 million, somewhere in that range.
I mean, we'll certainly know more about him, know more about the deal in the next couple of days. I don't think there's anybody on the planet, well, maybe not anybody on the planet, I don't think there's any denying that this helps the Cubs save face going into Cubs convention. There were Cubs fans that were going to be angry. I'm not saying it replaces Ohtani or Yamamoto or bringing back Bellinger or any of those possibilities, but like, it's something. If they hadn't spent a single dollar in free agency on players and had just, made the swap for Craig Counsell, I don't think fans would have been very happy this coming weekend, because fans are hungry for a division winner, and this doesn't guarantee it. That's for sure. I saw somebody, I think it was it P. Will supporter, who was asking, does this rotation get it done? Steele, Tyone, Wicks, Assad, Hendricks, and Imanaga. Like, does that combination get it done with Horton?
Well, you're going to add a Cade Horton mid-season, I think, and
you hope that's the boost, right?
You hope that's the boost. Like, and it to me, it's not even really like hope. Like, I feel very confident in Cade Horton coming up and being effective in this summer. I really do. And I think a lot of people do as well, and I understand you can't rely on that. And the thing is like, I don't think you're relying on Cade Horton to come up and take control of the rotation, but you would ask him to, to become part of the rotation at some point, and hopefully become what we say about all the prospects, like be that extra boost that you need. Right. So as long as you have Steele, as long as you have Hendricks continue to, do it in the most like unreal way, like he did last year. And obviously you need Jamison Tyone to be more consistent. And then, Jordan Wicks, Javier Assad, they showed to be very effective at the most meaningful time of the year last year. They weren't the reason they didn't make the playoffs last year. So I think that those are all guys that you can rely on. It's just like none of them are, I don't know, aces, I guess. I mean, you can argue that Justin Steele was, just because he really was a workhorse last year, but I know we need more strikeouts, and that's what I'm hoping Cade Horton provides.
And maybe Imanaga too.
Yeah,
you know,
maybe. I don't know.
We'll we're waiting for Brendan to give us all the details on the heat maps and
he says he's
flow
trying to
on
get
the
in.
ball and all the whatever it is.
I think it's according to the Slack channel. It says he's in. He's trying to get in, but
he's hopefully trying.
We got all the graphs, all the heat maps and movement charts and everything. That
right.
someone asked in the chat, "Where's our baseball nerd?" And I want to know the answer too.
Yeah,
I saw we had Jay Zawoski on here waiting for the Hawks game to start. Shout out to Jay for jumping in on the Cubs pod. I saw
big of him.
I agree with Vanilla Chill. I think they have the prospect capital to still go out and get somebody that's at least a reliable starter. You don't have to give away your best prospects for a year of somebody, but find me somebody that still gives you the depth that you're looking for. You know what I mean? Like, give me another Drew Smiley. Give me another Drew Smiley out there, just so I've got another arm that I know I can count on. Somebody that maybe can bounce to the bullpen or be that. Oh, here we go. Here's Brendan.
Oh, hold on. Do you see
am I on air right now?
You are on air. You're live on YouTube now.
How many people are watching right now?
It was almost 500.
500, right around 500.
I got 500 people watching my close-up face. I just stepped outside from work to break this news with you guys. I can't believe they did it. I cannot believe they actually did it.
Can I just say, can we like just be jealous of Brendan's sunny sunlight,
really
warm background?
What's the background?
Unbelievable.
That's the ocean. You see that?
Oh
yeah.
No.
I was going to jump in it unless
who invited this guy?
Yeah, exactly.
How you guys doing out there?
It's great. It's snowing. It's sleeting, and
I was great until you showed up.
Yeah, don't you miss it?
All right. Well, I'm sorry. Well, lucky for you guys, I have like 10% left on my phone battery here, so I'll try to get in. Whatever.
Yeah, go. Tell us. What do you know, Imanaga? Tell us.
Give us the pitch doctor breakdown.
So, is a contract even announced yet?
No.
What we've seen is Morosi said didn't specify a number of years, but should be around 15 million AAV.
That's it?
Seemingly.
That's a steal. That's a steal. If it's 15 million AAV, that's a steal. I mean, basically, he has a strong foundation, which I like, and that foundation is his four-seam fastball. So if you look at how Stroman throws his fastball, for example, he has a low release point. And when Stroman was first acquired by the Cubs, they attempted to throw more four-seam fastballs because of that low release point, and it has some decent rise on his four-seam. Ultimately, for Stroman, that didn't work out. He went back to a sinker, but you can think of the same logic with Imanaga. He has a low release point, similar to Stroman's low release point, and it has 20 inches of induced vertical break, which is among the best in Major League Baseball if it does translate to 20 inches. Do we have rats right now? We do.
Ooh,
this is the video I was talking about earlier.
Here are your tweets.
Yeah, these are my tweets. Okay, so you can tell that just based on this like virtual reality version, that it has some like relative natural carry to it. So at this point, this is a strong pitch. She's going to throw this pitch as its dominant pitch type, and at that point, the Cubs pitch lab, if you want to call it that, can mess around and figure out what secondary pitches to match with this. But he has a strong base. That's all you really need to know. Good four-seam fastball, good probability it translates well to Major League Baseball, and then the Cubs can mix and match to see if that sweeper ends up being a good pitch, if something a little bit more off speed, like a changeup or splitter, can work for him. But that four-seam fastball is a good base.
So do you think they have enough pitching now? Do they need another starter? Because I always thought they needed two if Stroman was gone.
I would like one more. If it's 15 million annual average value, that is just absurd. That means they can absolutely get at least one more guy. So if that's the case, and go out and try to get another expensive guy. If it's 15 million annual average value, I'm not saying they should do this, nor do I think it makes sense, but that leaves room for someone like Montgomery, even if it is that cheap. But my preference would always be to go to the trade market rather than signing any of these remaining free agents. But Imanaga if it's 15 million, is a perfect candidate.
There it is, the pitch doctor. We got the virtual pitches we got to see. We got to see the sunshine in California.
I mean,
we got to see his
let me show you
hair.
this. I got my Cubs lunchbox here. You see that? I'm
Oh.
literally
Oh,
walking
wow.
outside right now. Yeah. I had some nice chicken salad today for lunch.
He definitely got that at Foco.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
That's a photo.
Yeah.
Our
Brendan,
wonderful sponsor, Foco.
what's your I don't know what would most excite you about Imanaga? Like what in any of the data or pitch charts or anything you've seen, what's most exciting about him?
It's going to be that four-seam fastball. So we can look at like the sweeper. I know that's gotten a lot of conversation and the changing of different release points, but the fact that he has a base is what I'm focusing on. As long as you have a base, you can try other different things to match that base. The other pitchers don't have a base. Wisniewski doesn't have a four-seam fastball base, and you've seen the difficulties despite Wisniewski having one of the best sweeping sliders in baseball. Unlike Wisniewski, Imanaga has that base, and they can mix and match and figure it out. So that to me is the most encouraging.
All right. I'm buying. Like I said, I just wanted one of the three pitchers for sure. And again, while this is exciting because they finally spent some money right before Cubs convention and we have something to talk about, let's not forget that Bellinger is still the priority. If you're a Cubs fan, I would assume you're all thinking Bellinger's still the priority this offseason. Like, this is nice. They needed pitching, but they need a left-handed bat that at least gets them back to the lineup they had last year.
Yeah. Listen, my phone's about to die. I'm going to leave you guys back at it. It's good to see you. Put the heater on, get some jackets. I'm kind of cold out here. It's only 55 degrees.
Oh,
so
God.
Cut him off, Joey. Cut him off. Thank you.
Evil Wax in the chat asked if we, I think he said, are the Cubs for sure out on Montgomery, or are we just speculating? We're just speculating. But I think we also said that prior to getting numbers on Imanaga. So like Brennan said, $15 million a year AAV, certainly not breaking the bank for the Cubs, especially when you consider how much room under the luxury tax they are this season and in seasons to come. Certainly not breaking the bank. So if they were, if they still wanted to target Montgomery, that's definitely possible if you're looking at numbers. But we're, Bellinger's definitely still in play, maybe even Rhys Hoskins. So numbers wise, until we start seeing more signings and seeing where they're at, until we see the actual details for sure of Imanaga's contract, definitely not saying that they're completely out on Montgomery. And if it does stick at the 15 AAV as John Morosi put out there, then that certainly leaves room for another big signing or two, I would say.
I would say that if you ended up with Bellinger, Hoskins, and Imanaga, it would be a good offseason. It might not be the offseason that dreams were made of, right? With people shooting for, hey, we could land Soto, we could land Shohei, one of those two things happening. But adding a quality starter at an affordable price would be good. Bringing back your left-handed bat and guy that could play center or first would be good. And Hoskins would be good as your DH if you have to, first base. So I can at least, after one signing, I can at least see a path, right? I can at least see a path to where they can end up with a successful offseason after what's been sort of a strangely slow start. I don't think there's anybody that could deny that this has taken longer to develop than I think most of the fan base certainly wanted. Whether that's the Cubs' fault or not, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm willing to wait for this to all play out, and I think that it's a very solid move. It's not sexy. Some people in the chat the Cubs never spend big money, whatever. I get that. Whenever they pay for Cody Bellinger too, I doubt you guys will change your opinion still. But as far as what the Cubs need, this was a good move. They needed to make a move like this. They needed an arm, and that I'm good with this. So I did see a tweet. I think I'm saying his name right. Eno Saris.
It might be Saris, but yeah.
Saris. Okay. Anyway, this was from Patrick Mooney's article. that, basically broke this news as well. It was a tweet from March of last year during the World Baseball Classic, or after the World Baseball Classic. And it was just like he listed 11 guys, and it was just like a ranking of the final World Baseball Classic stuff plus leaders, minimum 28 pitches per appearance. And Imanaga was number one on this list.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't understand fully what stuff plus means. I just know that when you're at the top of a list of a stat that's supposed to say that you're good, tells me something. That he was really good in that tournament, and he's pitched well on a big stage. He's pitched well for multiple years in Japan. If you tell me that, you tell someone like me with like just the bare minimum knowledge of pitching and everything, I think that for what you're going to pay the guy, you're probably going to get most of your investment back. So I like this move, and I think it's just like like Bob Nightingale said on Sunday in his article or whatever, like the next 5 weeks the Cubs are going to be active, and it's annoying that we had to wait this long. But Bellinger, number one priority, him, Rhys Hoskins, whoever, like they got to make the offense better, man. That to me, that's the biggest thing next. So
yeah. So I think that I was gonna say that brings up a good question. You kind of just answered it, but Luke, for me, I'm looking at it like what do you need? Like what's the top of your priority list for the Cubs now? Like, is it another starter? Is it Bellinger? Who's top of your priority list?
Gary Ross says James Paxton is the pitcher I'm looking for. A Smiley type guy to give you some at least pitching depth. Well, I'd be good with Bellinger, and I would be good with Hoskins in a prove it season.
Yeah.
So you want another starter, but you don't necessarily need another starter? Is that what, like that has starting pitching kind of fallen down?
I think they need another starting pitcher. I don't know if they absolutely have to have like Montgomery or Snell and try and add on top of this. I don't think we're going that direction. I think this will be the biggest pitcher they signed. I don't think they're signing Hader. I don't think that's how they're going to fix the bullpen either. He's looking for the richest reliever deal there is. So I don't think they feel like they're at that point. Well, that seems like an
openly said it, basically.
Right?
I mean, yeah, they basically have openly said that. So I think that obviously Bellinger, Hoskins makes a lot of sense. What do you call it? Morosi was on MLB Network yesterday and like just bluntly said that it's the most make sense move of the entire offseason. Rhys Hoskins coming to the Cubs. So, Boris clients, we're just waiting. But as far as the offense, you add those two guys to what they already have. You got Imanaga to kind of bolster your starting rotation a little bit. You got to input some of these young dudes that you got. There's a lot to like. It's still not like a World Series team, but I think it's on track to at least be a division title contender or winner. You know what I mean? Like, as much as I want to be a World Series contender, as much as I want to be that, like, I also would like to just win and have a chance. And right at this moment, they made a move that shows that they're trying to put together a winning team. And like that, I think all of us probably would have been a lot more calm to this point if they had just done something, add a reliever, whatever, to at least shown that they were trying to do something, right? So market's played the way that they believe it feels like, or at least it seems like. So you got 5 weeks to make this team better, man. So I like this move, and I like where the rotation sits right now. I think that there could be some, maybe some extreme performance that we don't necessarily expect from guys like Imanaga, for example, or Jordan Wicks, or Cade Horton, or maybe Steele gets even better. I know, Ryan, you're high on Steele. You think you think he hasn't even reached his ceiling yet, right? So there's a lot to like there with a lot of these dudes.
I see our guy Fernando says, "Read my super chat." What's the super chat? Did I miss it?
I didn't see it. Oh, there you go.
Playoffs.
Playoffs.
Not yet. got to keep adding.
Still some work to do, I think, but
Work to do.
yeah, I think when Cody, we've said this on the show. I think Luke, you said it as well. It's just kind of, this is obviously a move in the right direction, right? A concrete move of them improving the roster, as we've talked about. But I think we've all kind of been of the belief that like when it kind of comes down to it, when we're sitting here 2-3 months, like when getting closer to opening day or even early spring training, whatever, that I think we all had like a belief that it was going to be an improved roster, right? It wasn't going to be what it was the last few weeks, the last couple of months. Like they were going to make moves. They were going to sign some guys that really improve the roster, plug in some of those holes on the roster, on the field, in the bullpen, in the starting rotation. Like I think we all had that belief. So even though for 2 months it felt like nothing or after they signed Craig Counsell, it just felt like complete nothing. I think we all kind of shared in that belief that it wasn't going to be nothing forever and they were going to be an improved team, a team that actually looked like a playoff caliber team.
Yeah.
DFW Susie says, bring back Belly, bring in Hoskins and Montgomery. I'll jump in the Pro Bass Shop pool.
Pro Bass Shop. There you go.
Luke, will you jump in the Pro Bass Shop pool?
I will not.
If they sign Bellinger before CubsCon?
I also can't stay on this much longer. We're up to like 526 people, but I have dinner to finish here. Like I'm in the middle of making, of course, I'm holding a baby in one arm and I'm trying to make turkey tenderloin in the other one. And it's like, come on, man. Of all the times, we're going to talk about it more tomorrow, obviously. So
obviously, hopefully we get some numbers tomorrow. But yeah, no, it's I think the chat overall is pretty excited, and I think we're all just kind of breathing a little bit. Like it's just nice to win one, right? Like that's this is
nice to get one.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like this, it's just nice to win one. They got someone. This guy didn't go to the Dodgers too, Like it's nice to see them make a move. Because even as patient as I've been, I was getting as antsy as anyone. So
if the Cubs had a great sense of humor, instead of introducing Imanaga at Cubs convention, they would set up a podium in front of the tank at the Pro Bass Shop in Schaumburg and just introduce them there and just let it play. Don't say anything else about it. Just have the fish swimming behind him. That would be content.
Yeah,
would in fact be content.
Barb did ask if Umaga will be at the convention. Sadly, former WWE superstar, the late great Umaga, will not be at the convention. But Shota Imanaga, the Cubs' reported new signing, could be.
Yeah.
All right. Are you guys staying on? Am I the only one jumping off at this
I don't
point?
really have much else to say except
I think we're good. We did 40 minutes of emergency podcast, right?
Yeah. And I think, again, once, more comes out, obviously, like we talked about, the physical still needs to be taken tomorrow.
Right.
Numbers, like done deal. Yeah, like concrete numbers, years. I think once that all comes out, we can really, as I said earlier, critique this signing more. Whether, projecting what he could do the first 3 years of like a 5 or 6 year contract or something like that, right? Like I think you think about it, we talked about WWE moves for 10 minutes earlier on the pod, like this afternoon. So like this gives us something to talk about moving forward, going into Cubs convention this weekend. But yeah, no, it's.
I think
it's nice to have something to talk about.
Yeah,
something real.
I think a good question we can all let rumble in our heads for tomorrow is one that Evil Wax asked in the chat, or maybe he just made a statement, but he said that he thinks the Cardinals and Brewers rotation's still better than the Cubs. I think I can argue against one of those at least, but I think that's something we can take the night to think about and perhaps consider discussing tomorrow.
Deal.
Yeah. And another Imanaga show tomorrow.
Credit to me.
From the Pro Bass Shop in Schaumburg.
There you go.
Live.
Pro Bass Shop.
We'll do it live.
Thanks for checking out live. We'll do it live. The CHGO Cubs Emergency Podcast Edition, Imanaga style. We'll hope to have more details and official signing maybe tomorrow. No, Barb, I'm not bringing the baby on. I'm going to make dinner, eat dinner, and as promised, help build a snowman. So until tomorrow's show, right? 1:30 tomorrow. 1:30.
1:30.
Unless, of course, there's another emergency pod tonight. Until then, hey, thanks to everybody that joined in the live chat. 500 people strong for the 40 minutes. We appreciate it. And you guys rock. Thank you. Until tomorrow, fly the W.